file and your completed discovery document in PDF form. Okay, make sure it's in PDF form. Grading breakdown. It's pretty easy. Give me what I want, I give you 10 marks. Okay? Make sure you give me what I asked for. I'll give you marks for it. Don't give me what I want, don't get any marks. Fair? I want these, give them to me, you get those marks. I'll go through your functionality discovery document. I'll give you marks for that. They're not free, but your mobile tablet and desktop detailed wireframe completed. I'll give you marks for it. Okay? Yeah. High fidelity prototype. And for your design prototype. Okay. So you go. Yeah, with all your pretty pictures. And colors and that stuff. Okay, so that's due week 6, February 5th by 5 p.m. Are we good with that? Yes? Yep. So, okay, question was, remember last semester for photography? For your final integrated project, you had to have 10 pictures, right? Okay, that had to go into your website. The question was, do we have to do the same for this, correct? No, you don't. Okay. Could you take pictures? Quite possibly. You can use stock photos. Okay. Could you, so for John's class, you're creating those promotional images, right? If you remember, you've got to create the 3D bottles, you've got to create kind of advertising images around them, right? You could use those in your website, right? Would that make sense? They could be in your header area for each page. I would think. I don't think it's mandatory they have to take pictures. Okay? But, I mean, it doesn't mean you can't either. It's up to you. Okay? In my opinion. Now, you can ask Jared that question too, because he's really kind of your design teacher. Well, I shouldn't say kinda, he is. Right? It's design and image shoe with Jared. So I'm okay if you do it or you don't do it. Okay? Did everybody like photography from last semester? What? What the hell? Okay, that's funny. Oh, that's fine. Had anybody used a DSLR camera before they came here? Yeah? Do you guys like using DSLR camera users? You like using your phone or the camera?
I think phone is like easier, but if you know how to use the camera, it's good.
Yeah. I don't know. You can ask a photographer and they'll give you. You can ask 100 photographers, they'll give you 100 different answers to that question. I know some professional photographers that they've got all the equipment, okay, and sometimes they just use their phone because it's quicker, okay. But generally speaking, when you use a DSLR camera, Is it about getting a quick snapshot?
No, it's more like something you focus on and you get like
It's about
even though when you
staging
zoom
it.
in, yeah.
It's staging it, right? Making sure it's the best photo possible, right? That's why you see photographers like sit for hours and hours and hours when they do animal photography. They find that perfect shot, right? You got the camera all set up. They don't have their iPhone set up, right? Waiting. Okay, maybe some do. Okay, so that's week 6. So 3 weeks from now. All right, let's go into XD. Well, I'll show you what we're going to create first. We're going to create this. We're going to create a carousel. So we slide from picture to picture using both arrows. Okay? Which is a common thing in code, right? We've all been to websites where you could go from picture to picture, yes, in the header area, right? We've been to sites where you go and the header just changes for you. Been to any of those
It's
sites?
like osmosis.
Do you like it?
Yeah, but that one's kind of easier. It's like instead of clicking,
Yeah.
it just shows you like there's a difference. Instead of like you forget that there's.
Usability wise, I think it's preferred to do this method or a combination of both. Okay. I don't know, for me,
Combination would be
the combination I think is probably the best.
yeah.
Because A, sometimes we're lazy and we don't like to press buttons and we want somebody to do it for us. But the other side of it is if it's constantly going, it gets annoying.
That's true.
So if we can find a sweet spot,
Yeah.
then we'll do that. Okay, so we're gonna make that. Well, let's close this down, and I'll close this down, and go into XD. Now I gotta close all these other ones down. Get to my home screen, and we'll just use a web layout of 1920 by 1080. Okay? That's going to be the size. And I will just rename this Web 1920 and call this Carousel. Right, so it's really kind of simple. First, I'm going to create all the assets that we need, and then we're going to create our interactions. Okay, so our animation. All right. So let's do that. Let's create a rectangle. Just drag out a rectangle. I want it to cover the entire screen, so I'm going to change my width and my height to be 1920 by 1080. I'm going to turn off the border. I'm going to change the color from white to be like a lighter gray. V for the move tool, and put it into place. I want you to go into your layers. Okay, make sure you go into your layers and rename this rectangle by double clicking it, BCKGRD. Once you have that created, grab your type tool Click on screen, call it pick one. And with it selected, you can choose the different fonts that you want to use. It doesn't matter. I have Helvetica New here, which is fine, but I'll make my font bigger, like 100. And maybe I'll make it all caps so that it's easier to read. And you can make it whatever color you want. Select both of them, okay, by holding Shift. Select your background, hold Shift, select pick one. You can go Command G or Control G on a PC, or right click and go group. Okay, once you've got it grouped, rename your group. Make sure it's not group one, make sure it makes sense. We'll call it pick one. All cool? Right? So we're gonna make pick two, pick three. But we'll just copy and paste, change the name, and so forth. Make sense? You're not gonna go through all those steps again, correct? Correct?
Yeah.
We gotta make sure we're somewhat efficient. So once we have this, we're gonna use it as a template. Command C or Control C. Control V. Paste. Oops. Make sure I do it correctly. Okay. Up here, I'm gonna rename it pick two. I'm going to select pick one's type, make it pick two. I'm going to select the background and make it slightly darker. And then rinse and repeat. Select pick two from my layers. Command C, Command V. Double click its name, call it pick three. Change the wording pick two to pick three. Change the background color to darker. And let's make sure that we save this. I'm going to save as a local document on my computer. You can save to the cloud if you want, but I'll just save this. I'll just call it carousel. I'm going to call it section and, well, we'll get through it all. We'll just call it carousel. I'm going to save it to my desktop. I have one there already from yesterday, but that's fine. Okay, so just like in Photoshop, we want to make sure our layer order, our objects in our layers are in order. So I'm going to put 3 at the bottom, and then 2 before 3. And so that makes sense. We go 1, 2, 3. Because 1, I want to be on our default stage, or state, sorry. Now we'll just make the left and right buttons. I'm going to use the circle. Drag out a circle. Okay, hold, just like in Illustrator, I believe. If you hold Shift, it will be a perfect circle. Remove the border. Rename ellipse 1 to be circle left. To create the arrow, I'm just going to go T for the type tool. Click and use my greater than sign on my keyboard. select both my greater than sign and my circle left and group them. Right click, group. Rename our group. Left arrow. Right, we'll make a right one. So I'm just gonna hold Alt for option, hold Shift, drag it to the right side, rotate it. Rename it. Right arrow. And rename my circle, circle right. Okay, so we have something like so in our layers, in our hierarchy. And with 5 groups. Yes? All right. I know you guys can draw, but. All right. So, remember I talked about this last week, I believe. When we're, okay, actually, here's some quiz questions. What did we make last week that allowed us to create the button? What do we call it?
You're using like hover states?
We were using hover states, but what is the actual object called? Component, right? Okay, that's kind of the driving force on making our hover states, okay? And doing animation. We can have a master component, right? Or you can think of sometimes, well, I call it master, it's called main component. Or a parent component, okay? And remember, if we had instances or copies of the main component and we wanted to change those instances all at once, we just changed the main component, right? Or the parent component. So if I got 100, okay, if I got 100 buttons that are children of the parent, I can change them all at once by changing the parent. If I want to change the children, can I change the children? By not changing the parent. Can I?
No.
Yes. Are you just like your parents? You're an individual. You can do that. Okay. A couple things. Main component, they turn what color? When we make it a main component? Green. Green. And there's a visual indicator in the top left corner. It's a diamond shape. Is the main component filled or outlined? That diamond shape. Filled. Okay? So the children are outlined. Because we're not as important as their parents. I guess. But that's the visual indicator, okay? And you'll get used to that. All right. So I want to select all of these elements, okay? Because I want to include them all in the component at the very start. And then I can change them as I create new states, okay? So let's select all 5 of these groups and create a component. So I'm going to use my layers. Hold Shift. So select my top, my right arrow, hold Shift, go to the bottom, pick 3. Selects them all for me, right click, and go make component. And make sure we rename that component. Component, I'd say carousel. Okay, and yeah, the visual indicators in our layers as well. It's a filled diamond shape. Okay, so we have our default state set up. Kind of, but kind of not. Okay. So when we think about this, because this will get confusing. If I hit this arrow, I'm on my default state, so I'm going to create interactions for this arrow and this arrow. So on my default state, if I hit this arrow, which image do I want to slide in there? Pick 2, right? If I hit this arrow, what image do I want to slide in from here then? Pick 3. Make sense? So let's set that up so that we put picture 2 just off over here, and we put picture 3 just off over here on the default state. Okay? So let's do that by selecting your default state, double clicking it, and I know it's a bit of a pain, and I've done it in the past. I start moving stuff around in this state, but I'm not inside the state. You have to kind of like jump in the group or jump in the box, okay, to make your alterations. So make sure you're on default state, double click it, and then we have access and we'll select our pick 2, and I'm just going to, so I pick 2 from my layers, I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to use my right arrow key and move it over to the right. Okay, get it started, and then I'll just use my arrow and move it over. Okay, I'm going to say to you, for now, just have it slightly overlap. Yes, it's behind picture 1, okay? But just have it slightly overlap. We'll fix that later. When we, and I don't know if XD has been updated, but when we previously tried to do this carousel effect or animation, you had to have the other image that is going to slide in slightly, even a couple pixels on stage or on your screen, or it wouldn't work. So what I mean by that is, if this picture is like way off, so as in not even touching, like over here, it would break. Okay, so I don't know if they fixed that or not, so I'm going with what I know. I'm going to put this image just slightly overlapping. I'll just move it back. I'm going to grab picture 3, hold shift, left arrow key, and move it over to the left. And then use my arrow, or my move tool, move it over. So we have something like so. Okay, on our default state. Why can't we see the overlap? Right? I said this is overlapping onto the stage. Why can't I see the darker picture on the stage?
Because the very first one is the pick 1 is the parent.
Exactly. So your layers, it matters, right? Pick 1's on top, so it's hiding the other ones. Yeah? Make sense? We're gonna have to alleviate that issue later though. Okay? That's our default state. So let's create our picture 2 state. Okay, so where picture 2 is in the middle. Okay? If picture 2 is in the middle, so envision picture 2 is in here. Picture 1 goes where? If I press this button, picture 2 is here. Picture 1 should slide that way. Picture 3 needs to come over here. Okay, I know it's a little confusing, but it does work. So, click out, click back up, and create a brand new state. So hit a plus. Don't do a hover state or toggle state, do a new state.
I'm sorry, I was in class earlier. Did someone find over-the-top headphones?
Anybody find headphones? Over the top headphones? You wanna go check?
Yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so select new state. And we'll rename it Pick 2. Once you've renamed it, double click your component. Take pick 1, move it to the left. Pick 2 comes to the middle. And then pick 3 will go to the right. So sometimes I use my layers palette quite a bit, going back and forth. I'm just using shift and my right arrow key. Does it go slow? Yeah, but that's okay. Move it to the right. A little bit of overlap. Cool. So now we have 1, 2, 3. And we still have some overlap, but now it's an issue. We have some picture 1's overlapping picture 2. We'll fix that, okay? One more state where picture 3 is in the middle. Where does picture 1 go? On the left side or the right side? Goes to the right. So it does this. Picture 2 will shift over here. Picture 3 will shift here. Picture 1 comes back around to the front. Yeah, we're cycling, right? Cycling through. Okay, so click out, click on. With picture 2 selected in your states, hit the plus. New state, pick 3. Okay, with that selected, double click to get inside our component. And picture 2 goes over to the left. Picture 3 comes into the middle. Picture 1 goes to the right. Click out, click back on. So pick 3, pick 2, pick 1, which is default. That's the setup we got. Okay, so we have everything working. Well, not working, but in place to work. Okay? In place to work. But before we do that, okay, this state, default state is good. Picture 2 state, we'll take a break after this. We have an issue. Okay, picture 2 state, picture 1 is overlapping picture 2. But remember I said you still need it to be slightly on there. Okay? How can we alleviate that issue? Couldn't we change the transparency of that picture? So, in theory, what I'm saying is any of the pictures that are off the canvas, let's change the transparency to be 0 for those states. Okay? And they only become 100% opacity when they're on the stage or in the canvas. Okay? That's how we're going to fix that. So, I go to default state, double click it to get inside, select picture 2, change its opacity to be 0, picture 3, change it to be 0, click out, click on, okay, they're still there, they're just transparent, go to pick 2 state, we got issues, right? We got issues because default state will change all the other states.
Yeah.
It's just a quirky thing, okay? So we have to go back through with opacity. Go back through each state and make sure that, picture 2 is 100%. Change picture 1 to be 0%, okay? It's just one of those things that I found when it comes to transparency. So picture 2, double click it. To get inside that state, select picture 2, make it 100% opacity, select picture 1, make it 0. Click out, click back on, go to pick 3 state. Have to do the same thing, but we have to change picture 3's opacity. Double click, select picture 3, change its opacity to be 100, picture 1, be 0. Click out, click on. So now we have pick 3, 2, 1. Make sure you save it. Okay? So what's going to happen is once we wire this up, the image that's over here or here, depending on which button we press, will go from 0% to 100% in opacity. Cool? No. Okay, let's take a break. Let's do 10 minutes and we will continue on.
When you first make a default, maybe it's delete default state.